Welcome to the introduction of the Acquisition Gateway. You just had the opportunity to hear Tom Sharp speak about category management in the Acquisition Gateway briefly during our morning session. But this session is really to go much more in depth into what the gateway is, how you can use it, where it's going, and what the opportunities are for you to provide feedback into the development that we're taking, in the direction that we're taking it. So let me start out by asking a couple of questions. The first is, who has heard of the Acquisition Gateway before coming to this session? So about half of you. And how many of you have gone into the Acquisition Gateway? 15% maybe? So this will be a chance. Do you want me to use their recording? So I don't know if I need to just have the lavalier mic or not. But the Acquisition Gateway is a tool that GSA developed that goes along with the ideas and the themes that we've been hearing about over the last couple of days. When Ms. Wyrick had an opportunity to speak to us, she talked about the burden on contracting officers to understand and be specialists in so many more areas than the expectation was 10 or 15 years ago. And the ones that she listed included cyber, pricing, small business, were the ones that I was able to capture. And that creates a burden on the acquisition workforce to be specialists in every area and to be able to understand, as you're being asked to move rapidly from purchasing IT to professional services to industrial products, how do you know what the best practices are for those specific categories of purchase? How do you know what the right terms and conditions? And where do you go to learn how to do that? When you're pressed for time, when there may not be the resources immediately in your office to be able to make those connections. So one of the things that we began doing when we began developing the Acquisition Gateway is we started by talking to CIOs, senior procurement executives, the frontline forum, so working level contracting officers, program managers. And what we heard is that the acquisition workforce needs a place to go to be able to understand what the best practices are, where to do market research, where to see what contracts already exist in a specific area. Where are there statements of work that I can take and begin to look to see if they meet my requirements and revise with my program team? What are the opportunities for collaboration? And so that's what we began building when we started thinking about the Acquisition Gateway. It's also an opportunity to take some of the collaboration and the fact that we've had an opportunity, the chance to meet each other face to face, and take that into the virtual world through community and through being able to rely on your peer network that's broader than just your personal network. So that's the other facet of the Acquisition Gateway, is the community build-out. So let me go ahead and now that you have a little bit of background in it, let me go ahead and walk you through it. We want to be the government acquisition workplace. The Gateway wants to be the place where you log in the morning, and that's where you both have your projects, where your team is collaborating, and that you're able to begin to put information there, retain it, and use that to build into your day-to-day workflow. We've started doing that. I will say as well is that this is a tool that's been under development for for 2 years. It's been live for 18 months, and we have a long way to go. So the feedback that you give me today and that I've heard and that we hear through a number of user testings define our next set of development priorities. So that's where we want to be. Where we are today is fragmentation across the government acquisition landscape. When they looked at laptop and desktop contracts, which are fairly standard commodity item for most acquisitions, there were over 10,000 contracts across the government for those items. There was also a 300% price variation for the same model of laptop. And what that results in, it means we're not getting the best deal for the taxpayer. It also means that we have a lot of people putting contracts in place for identical things. And so one of the things that Ann Rung, the administrator of Office of Federal Procurement Policy, and Tom referenced this in his talk this morning, is she began building out a category management strategy for across the government. And so the idea of category management is that how do we understand all of the money that's being spent on information technology, professional services, travel and lodging? How do we understand how that's being spent, who the key suppliers are, and what the best strategies are for being able to buy those items, and what the best-in-class contracts are for being able to acquire those items? All of that information is being put together by specialized category teams, and it's ultimately going to, with the intent of reducing the fragmentation. So it's time to act as one for smarter acquisition. We want to use the combination of category management and bring that information to the acquisition workforce through the gateway so that we're acting as one. We're leveraging contracts that we already have in place, reducing the open market contracts, being able to build and share each other's requirements, be able to share pricing, which we've heard is a key theme throughout the last day and a half, and be able to share a number of resources across the workforce that we're unable to do today. So that is where we want to be. We have a couple of quotes here. That contracting for me is learning a new industry every few hours. That's market research for real. So where does that individual go to be able to find that information when they're being asked to move quickly between understanding each new industry? How many of you have been asked to work on teams, either from the contracting side or the program side, to solve a business problem when you're unfamiliar with the industry? I'm seeing a few nods across the room. And this is a place where you can go to be able to find that. From the program manager at the CDC, their greatest asset is being able to understand the contract vehicles in their category, so they know what the options are, what's already been done, and then they can make a conscious decision of whether or not something meets their needs or they need to go with an open market acquisition. And then data transparency. Getting down, I like the invoice data because I can see the pricing details about the solutions I use most often. And that tells you, and being able to see what others have paid, or being able to see in an automated manner what the ceiling rates are, increases the likelihood that you're going to be able to rapidly put together an accurate cost estimate, and be able to see how labor categories are defined, be able to see what other pricing has been paid by other agencies. So that's one of the things that we're also putting into the gateway as one of the tools. So the idea behind the gateway is that we want to be able to connect you with all of that knowledge. We want to connect you with one another and give you the opportunity to contribute to it. So I'm sorry, I know the slides are hard to read, especially when you're in the back. I have poor vision, so I would be basically standing in front of the screen. But I'll walk you through what each aspect of the gateway is so that when you go in and you take a look at it for yourselves, it'll be more familiar with you and you'll be more comfortable with the navigation. So let's start here with the acting as one. So this is a video that gives a bit more of a definition around, this is the gateway homepage at thehallways.cap.gsa.gov. All of you have the slip sheet in front of you. Maybe not everyone has it, but there are more copies in the front if you don't have a copy sitting in front of you. And the URL for the gateway is also on the left-hand side of that slip sheet. So you can take that with you and have it. So this is the home page. The first thing that when you access the gateway, and this has to do with the procurement-sensitive data that we have in it. It's not classified, but it is procurement sensitive because it has the proprietary pricing information and it has some of the key information from the contractors. And this, as we said, we will be emailing out this presentation to you as well, so you'll have copies of the instructions. There's also a video on the Gateway homepage if you don't want to wait for us to email you the presentation. Going through and logging into the Gateway takes about 5 minutes the first time. After that, takes about 15 seconds. But it does require that you use your CAC or your PIV card in your computer so you have a second factor authentication for data security. So you start out by going to max.gov, and up at the top right, you see a big green button that says Register Now. What that does is give you a registration form. You fill it out with all of your information about your job title, your agency, all of that. And it sends you, the next step is it sends you an email to your .gov or your .mil account. And what that email does, it confirms that you have a legitimate .gov.email address, and then and it gives you a link to go ahead and complete that registration. So then your next step is, once you complete your registration on Max, is you go back to the gateway. And if you were able to see those buttons and read them, the left-hand one says federal users only, federal government users. The right one says non-federal government and the public. So you would click on the left-hand button to log in as a federal government user. You would then be taken back to the Max page. But instead of just putting in your name and password, what you want to do is link your PIV or your CAC card to your account. That is a critical step because you need to have the second factor authentication. So once you do that and you link it to the account, you put in your username, you link the account, and you're on the gateway. So I realize that multi-step process can be a little bit much to go through. If you have any questions about it or have any challenges, you can always email the hallway's email address that's also on the slip sheet, and my team will walk you through that. So once you are on the first time, all you do then is you go to the gateway, you put your CAC card into your reader, you log in, and you're on in about 15 seconds. There's also, for those of you who there's also another alternative two-factor authentication that you can use called Secure Plus as well, and the instructions will be in the deck. So I just want to I spent a little bit of time on that, predominantly because, one, to be candid, it's been a big barrier to people signing in, because it is a multi-step, difficult process. But this is also, one of the things that's been a constant concern is the fact that we are putting up so much procurement-sensitive information that's not available elsewhere, that the security has been required by our lawyers and by OMB in order to make sure that we have the right protection and that only federal employees can actually access this data, which gives you some sense of how valuable we're considering the information that we're putting in this tool and sharing out across the government. Tom also spoke today about the transactional data rule and collecting all of the labor rates and all of the prices paid data from the schedules contracts. And that information will also be available in the gateway as we begin to collect it and make it visible. So going into this, let's start back at the home page for the gateway. You have clicked on your federal government user and you're beginning to move through this. You have logged in through Max. See, that was the 15-second login. You just saw that. No, in all reality, I would love to be doing a live demo right now, but because of the technology challenges of doing a live demo in this type of space, and because we wanted you to be able to get CLPs, we had to have a fixed presentation to be able to do that. So we'll just pretend that took the 15-second login as I was talking. So the first thing is we talk about that we want the gateway to be your project space. And so in the center there with the giant blue button, the giant blue arrow, sorry, this would be if you came in and your boss came to you and said, I want you to buy Agile Development services. And you're sort of like, okay, Agile Development, IT, and began sort of working through how to learn more about Agile Development, how it's purchased, information about what it is, and how do you best help your customer get what they need with the IT development services. So you come to the gateway and you start a new project. And so what is up there is an actual project that says, we're buying Agile Development, there's a due date, there's a bit of a description. And what the project does is it allows you to begin to collect resources from all over the gateway. You don't have to start a project when you come into the gateway, but this allows you to tag resources and identify it to this individual project, so you don't have to remember what articles, what contracts, what statements of work that you found to be valuable as you were going through the tool. So then, after I've set up the project, that would be the other blue arrow. It says that's my Agile Development. So I go in, I'm able to put in a project description. If the customer had given me any documentation, if I want to upload it here, I can upload it. I can also begin to, and this is a future, next couple of months, you'll be able to share this out with your project team so that all of you would be able to visit, to see the resources that you're compiling. There would be able to be feedback back and forth. And one of the reasons that we're building a collaboration tool is because so many of the commercial collaboration tools, such as Google Docs, aren't considered secure enough to be able to use for acquisition, and most agencies block them. And so we wanted to, as we're building this, we heard a couple of things from the workforce. We heard both that being able to collaborate on a cross-functional team is a big challenge. Having both the dynamics of that team and having the online capability to do that is a challenge. Then the second piece we heard is that requirements development is very difficult. And so what we want to be able to do, and I had the opportunity to sit in a fabulous requirements development session yesterday as well, we want to be able to help facilitate both of those things. Is to be able to facilitate the collaboration by giving you somewhere to be able to share documentation, and by giving you tools to be able to start building stronger requirements. So this is what your project looks like. So you know that it's an IT service. So you click on the left-hand side here, we have all of the hallways that are really repositories of specific knowledge around different categories. And so it includes things such as office management, IT services, professional services, all of the things that you might need to buy. If you click on the hallway, it takes you into a set of resources that will help you understand that category better. So I'm entered the IT services hallway because I know that Agile Development is part of IT services. And so what's in this hallway? On the left-hand side, you can see the article index. So these are all articles that experts in IT services thought would be valuable to somebody who needs to understand that environment. Under the resources, if you click on the buy online, it takes you to transactional platforms that allow you to buy IT services. And if you view the prices paid, it takes you to any of the prices paid information that we have. The prices paid information at this point is I will say it's in its infancy, but we are working to grow that, and we're working to understand better ways to visualize that data and make it more usable as people refer to it and use it for market research. Then in the center, you have the category team. So we have our individual on the category team. You also have the solutions finder, which would then take you to all the contracts that sell IT services. Down below, you have the featured articles. On the right, you have the community, which allows you to ask questions, and I'll show you that feature in a moment. You also have an events schedule and any news articles that are relevant to IT services. But we're interested in learning more about Agile. So the one on the right is an article on what's Agile Development. So that helps explain what this is, what type of IT development it is, what you need to know about it, what the industry looks at for. And so we go back to the hallway because we now understand a bit more, but we still have some questions. So we go into the community, and obviously I am not Brad Powers. Brad was supposed to be giving this presentation today, but wasn't able, but I had to step in. So Brad is now asking his questions on more about IT services. And so this would be a place to be able to post questions, to be able to get feedback from the category team. And so he's beginning to write, just basically, I'm working on a statement of work on an acquisition for the management of Agile services. Can anybody help me out? So he puts that up there and is looking to wait to see if how the community responds. But when we talk about networking, when we talk about sort of the information sharing and the collaboration, it's hard to be able to do all of the things that we're doing face-to-face. that we've been able to do yesterday and today, this gives you that online forum to be able to ask those questions and discover who the subject matter experts are and who may have had success in doing this, and a place to go to get some of these questions answered. So we're going back now, and we're actually looking at what are contract awarded labor categories in IT. So Tom also mentioned the Calc Tool this morning, and so we're in the professional services hallway. We click on Calc, and it explains what the tool is and what it does. And I will just click into it. So what this does is it allows you the capability to search the ceiling awarded labor rates on the professional services schedules and on the IT 70 schedules. So for those of you who've ever had the opportunity to build a cost estimate, and you've had to dig through the different pricing sheets and to be able to understand, you've been looking to be able to find the same labor category, this allows you to search specific labor categories across multiple contracts by just entering it in. So what we did is we put in web developer, and what it shows you is that the average cost of a web developer across, and I can't see if it has the number of contracts up here, is $127. You can see the variation, you can put in the different education requirements, so it allows you to rapidly see what the distribution is across different, and then below you can actually see all of the contracts that have web developer on it. So this tool was put in place in order to accelerate your market research, because we know that getting that information is critical to being able to have the program office effectively assess what the cost estimate of their services will be, of what their needs will be. And so as I said, we have professional services in IT 70, which is also the IT services, information in here, and we're looking to add more labor rates across the board. So going back, we now are beginning to build our cost estimate for Agile services because we've understood more. We're going into the TechFAR Hub to understand more about Agile development. So the TechFAR Hub, one of the questions that constantly comes up, and I was interested to hear Mr. Halleck say that basically the acquisition process isn't broken. And one of the things with technology is it keeps coming up. Can the federal acquisition regulation accommodate the new innovative IT services? And so in response to that challenge, Office of Management and Budget went ahead and built what they call the TechFAR handbook, with the idea being behind it that it shows how the FAR allows you to buy innovative services and products. And it helps explain how to effectively use the FAR in order to do that. And so there's a number of resources on here related to the TechFAR. There's also a number of podcasts that talk about case studies where innovative IT products and services have been purchased, and walks through how the program office and the contracting office accomplished their mission by doing that. So it gives you some real life examples about how to use that. So we're back to the gateway after we've had a chance to explore those resources. And we want to go into Ebuy Open and see if anybody else has been buying Agile development services. So what Ebuy Open is if any of you have used Ebuy as an RFQ distribution tool, and you've ever wondered, did somebody else put out an RFQ for the same service, product, problem that I'm looking at? This gives you insight into searching the last 18 months of RFQs that went out on Ebuy. And you can search by agency, you can search by keyword. There's a number of filters on the left-hand side that allow you to really dig into it and see all of the attachments, the statements of work, all of the information that's been shared with the contractor community on the Ebuy tool. So this is a great market research tool if you want to know what else and how other people are doing things. So going back to the gateway after we went through Ebuy Open, we also want to see if there's any Agile statements of work available. So we've been putting together the statement of work library. So all the categories have been collecting good, what they consider good statements of work. These are ones that have been used. And so we search Agile, and we see that Agile services for the enterprise is a statement of work that's available to us. You can vote whether or not you think it's a good statement of work after you've had a chance to look at it. And you can see the sample statement of work and either download it and begin to use it as a foundation for your work, or you can just look at it online. But either way, it allows you to filter by category, by statement of works type if you want a performance work statement, statement of objective, a statement of work. And you're able to gather all of the, and you're able to take a look at what's out there. You're also able to give us feedback if we're missing the mark and don't have some of the statements of work or some of the areas, because we're continuing to build this out based on the feedback that we receive. So finally, we've gathered all of that information, so we want to see what contracts are available in the Solutions Finder. So the Solutions Finder is a compilation of over 200 contracts across the government. Many of them are available for government-wide use, but some of them are agency-specific. There's a number of DoD-specific contracts in here that other agencies cannot access. And so what this does is it allows us to pull up different services and contracts. In some cases, we actually have the contract loaded on here. In other cases, you can click to link out to the pricing data. If there is a public website available, we've tried to link to that as well. And you're able to compare them. So we can see, you can select any number of contracts and compare them, what types of services they have, what the fee structure is, who the points of contact are, what the terms and conditions are, and you're able to begin to look at them next to one another. So this is one of those key features that when we were doing our research, we kept hearing that people wanted to be able to see contracts and compare them next to each other. And so that was the reason we built this service for that. So the Solutions Finder then allows us we can go ahead and save the contract. If we see a contract that we want to use, we can save it back to our project. And then we can go back to our acquisition workspace with all of the information that we've been gathering for the Agile Services question, all within a single project, so that we don't have to go through that again, because we've been able to collect all that information and save it back to the project. So that is a quick overview and a quick case study of how you could potentially use this and what the opportunities are. We chose Agile because that's one, there's significant interest in it, but two, it's also one that a lot of people don't know much about. And we've been trying to expand the resources in that area. But this isn't limited to IT. As I said, this is anything from office supplies, industrial products, basically any commercial product or service has this type of information about how to work better with small business, what small business strategies you can use in this category. How do you build requirements? What are the tools and templates available to you to be able to identify good statements of work? What does the industry look like? So it's the idea of bringing together all of the market research resources into a single place to give you a starting point for being able to be, from the program side, to be able to understand what you need and best to solve your problem, and from the contracting side, to be able to pull everything together.